"You cut my power during a storm," I shouted at the howling wind. Barefoot, shivering, wet blanket hugged around me, flashlight stuck between my teeth. Loretta Grayson, amateur overlord of the HOA, smirked from her pristine, well-lit porch, sipping cocoa with a grin like she'd just won the lottery. "Rules are rules," she bellowed, her voice slicing through the gust. That was when I decided, no more warnings, no more mercy. If she wanted to play with the grid, she was going to have a face-to-face encounter with the man who built it. The storm came in just after nightfall. A slow, snarling beast wetting streets, shaking windows, driving the neighborhood indoors. Porch lights flickered on one at a time, mine among them until all of a sudden they didn't. Within minutes, my house was plunged into darkness. No power, no heat, smart thermostat dead, security system offering one sad chirp before it flatlined. Worst of all, the fridge fell silent, right after I'd stocked $500 worth of groceries. I figured it was your standard outage. Grabbed my flashlight, stepped out, expecting the whole street to be dark. But every house was lit up like a holiday postcard. ACs hummed, TVs flickered behind curtains. Even Dave Walsh's inflatable flamingo bounced around in the storm. My house alone filled the vacant space. Back inside, I tried a restart from my phone. Error, utility dashboard. Access denied. Power service terminated by HOA infraction. Phone HOA admin. I froze. Since when did the HOA control power over me? A loud banging rattled the gate. I tightened my coat more, struggled through the storm, and found a neon orange infraction notice inside a plastic bag. Loretta's proud signature at the bottom. Unauthorized use of generator. HOA code 8B7. Shut off immediately mandated. I laughed, perplexed, angered. Generator. Mine was not even powered on. The storm did not take out the grid. My solar backup was not used, awaiting a collapse that never came, because the grid had not collapsed. It had been shut off. I splashed through puddles to Loretta's porch. She smiled from behind her glass door, apathetic as I pounded on it. She cracked it open, glaring at me like some wet rag tag. "Loretta," I said, breath misting in the cold. "You cut my power." "No," she said, near purring. "The HOA did." Smug didn't even begin to cover it. "Your solar backup was found non-compliant. Grid-connected systems can't auto-start without HOA approval. It's in the bylaws." "It wasn't even on," I snapped, "and you don't have permission to cut residential power." She smiled like she'd just delivered a punchline to kill. "Perhaps not, but we did." "Need it back?" "Complete a compliance review, pay the fee, wait for board approval. You know how this goes." She sat and sipped cocoa, her cozy lit living room warm behind her like some smug stage. I stood there, soggy and cold. Something gave way. Not anger, not hopelessness. Something cold. Cleaner. Resolution. Middling my sentence, I returned for hers. I slipped in via my side door, headed straight to my utility room. 2 biometric checks and I was admitted into my command center. Monitors came alive. Blue glow covering diagnostic dashboards, live camera shots, and one gigantic screen. "Welcome, administrator." This is something Loretta didn't know. I wasn't just a name on her HOA list of targets. I was Evan Carter, CEO of Bright Grid, the utility company that brightened her valuable HOA and 47 others. I monitored her meters, her solar installations, her standbys, everything. She'd trimmed my power under a dusty old compliance clause from a merger 3 purchases ago. A transgression I hadn't caught until today. I drilled deep. Records showed her call to Bright Grid's HOA line 3 hours prior, sweet-talking a new kid tech with admin credentials that were outdated. She triggered a manual disconnection, alleging a code violation. The technology, ignorant and obstinate, bounced the switch. A 1 in a million workaround, and she thought she'd won. Rain lashed the roof as lightning spat. My fingers flew across the keys. I might have bounced it back. Power restored. Business as usual. But this wasn't about power. It was about principle. She'd broken the grid I built. So I built a case. Call recordings. Door cam footage of the slip. Grid protocol abuse. HOA meeting minutes recording her overreach. This was not just overzealousness. It was tampering. Illegal. I texted compliance. Silent audit, HOA Sector 19. B target, unauthorized overrides. Cracking open a soda, I watched the storm rage. My house stayed dark, but the system had been agitated. Loretta was going to find who held the real switch.